It's Margarita from People Do Want to Know podcast. I have been extremely excited to share this particular episode with you because it features one of my dream guests, Rabbi Manis Friedman. Who is Rabbi Manis Friedman, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you. Rabbi Manis Friedman is YouTube's most popular rabbi with over 300,000 followers listening to his daily content. He is also a world-renowned author, counselor, lecturer, and philosopher. He uses ancient wisdom and modern wit as he captivates audiences around the country and the world. Rabbi is widely recognized for his thoughtful approach to almost every major issue that plagues society, from self-awareness to spirituality, mysticism, sexuality, parenting, and marriage. He is known for his commentary on very challenging and uncomfortable topics, which is one of the reasons I love watching his content. Rabbi has thousands of students, fans, and individuals who have deep respect for his wisdom and compassion. His speaking engagements and lectures sell out instantly. Rabbi Friedman has written 5 books with more on the way and has been featured on CNN, PBS, BBC, TEDx, and many others. Check out the description of the podcast to see where you can follow, subscribe, and purchase his books. Rabbi's upbringing and career journey is also particularly interesting. He moved to America at the age of 4 from Prague after his family experienced persecution for being Jewish. This really resonates with me as I, too, am a Jewish refugee from Europe. A fun fact to mention is that Friedman's mother, Miriam, is a descendant of the Baal Shem Tov, who was a very famous mystic and healer, but is also regarded as the founder of Hasidic Judaism. No big deal. In the 70s, Rabbi was inspired by the teaching of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he opened the Beis Hana Women International, which is an institute for Jewish studies in Minnesota for women. He also served as a simultaneous translator for the Lubavitcher Rebbe. For context, this is an incredibly challenging job because Yiddish and Hebrew are just very hard to translate to English while retaining the same depth and meaning in the language. It is very apparent that Rabbi has an innate gift for all forms of communication. His books, lectures, and videos are incredibly engaging and make you think. May not always agree, but I always learn something new and have a moment. I'm deeply grateful to have the opportunity to share his story with all of you. I alluded to this on Instagram, but the way in which I ended up being able to record an episode with Rabbi is through sheer luck, which, by the way, if you haven't yet, please follow us on Instagram at People Do Want to Know. I post different content on there and some behind the scenes of the podcast. Anyway, here's a story with Rabbi Manis Friedman. When I first started working on this podcast, someone asked me, "Who is your dream guest?" I mentioned a few people, and specifically Rabbi Manis Friedman. I explicitly said, "There's no way I will ever get Rabbi Manis Friedman on. He is way too big, my audience is probably too different for him, it's a total pipe dream." And I completely forgot about all of this. This was like back in September. In early February, I was on a flight to Cabo that had a layover in Minneapolis. I'm about to get off the plane when I see a man 2 rows in front of me that looks like Manis Friedman. At first, I thought it's just someone who looks like him. But then I thought, the big black hat seems a little too much of a coincidence. So then I squinted harder, and at that point I was sure it was him. But it also kind of made sense because Rabbi probably travels often to Minnesota for his institute. When I got off the plane, I approached him and said, "I'm so sorry to bother you. You're not Rabbi Manis Friedman, are you?" And he smiled and said, "I happen to be." After that, I blacked out, but I think I spent a good 3 minutes gushing about how much I appreciated his work and what a fan I am. Then I got the courage to say, "I'm sure you have no shortage of speaking engagements, but as luck will have it, I just started a new Jewish podcast called People Do Want to Know." Did my spiel, and Rabbi told me to email his team. The rest is history. Rabbi, thank you for your generosity, for giving me your time and enthusiasm, and your willingness to support a new podcast that's still growing. I wish I could convey in words what it was like to meet Rabbi in person. He has this look in his eyes, not like he sees you, but like he sees you. It's an instant feeling of comfort and warmth. In this episode, we cover a ton of interesting topics. Rabbi gives us more detail about his life, his stance on the current situation in Israel, his outlook on where Jewish people are headed, and he leaves us with a powerful message. I'm still thinking about our conversation, and I probably will be thinking about it for a while. Rabbi has a genuine curiosity to understand and connect with people. It's very palpable. I'll play you an excerpt of a conversation him and I had that's not part of the episode.
What more can we do to make the world better?
That's a question, I have on my agenda along with what is my personal purpose. I'm still drafting. I'm in the draft stage of those.
This might be it.
I hope so. That's what I'm
This
trying to
might
do.
be your purpose.
That I really hope so.
By the way, purpose means not what would you like to become. That's not a purpose. Purpose means God created you because he needs something from you that he isn't getting from anybody else. So it's not a purpose, it's the purpose. That's more exciting and harder to find.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for my purpose. I think all of us are as we go through life. May this episode get you closer to finding it. Anyway, this was the world's longest episode intro, so please enjoy. Hello, Rabbi Manis Friedman. Thank you so much for joining People Do You Want to Know podcast. It's such a huge privilege to have you on.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice of you.
Thank you again for joining the podcast. I guess let's get right to it. Let me ask you my first question for you and walk the audience through your background. So, walk us through your journey of becoming the Manis Friedman we know today. You have a remarkable story of immigration to America, working with secular Jews early in your career, becoming the Rebbe's translator, and then a beloved author. When you reflect on it now, what comes to mind for you?
Well, it doesn't seem like the past or history because it keeps on going. It's a seamless continuum, and it's just getting more and more exciting because the world is getting more and more crazy. So being a Chabad student, the Rebbe in Brooklyn encouraged us, all of us, to make a contribution to the Jewish community and to the world in large. That was such an interesting challenge. That was so exciting. Not defensive, not insular, not self-oriented. Take on the world, change the world, make the world a better place. For a teenager, that's an exciting challenge, an exciting idea. And so I got caught up in that. When I was 16, I started speaking publicly, sharing what I've learned in the yeshiva, and the reaction and the response was so great, I just never stopped. We don't really think of Jews as secular and religious because it's hard to know which is better. So it's neither secular nor religious, it's just Jewish. And when you discuss Jewish ideas, Jewish principles, Jewish practices with any Jew, it's just a perfect match. And the response is so gratifying. So back in 1970, I moved to Minnesota with my wife, and we had one child at the time. And we started this introductory course to Judaism for women because there was nothing. There was no school, no program for an adult woman to start exploring Judaism. So we started one on a whim, on a joke almost. We had 18 college women show up, totally unexpected. And it was really, really good. We sat and we studied for 2 months, summer vacation time. We did it again next year. It was 42 women by word of mouth. We did it again the next year. It was 102 women. So we decided to do it during winter break. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't only college students. It was women from all over the world at every age, at every stage. It just became the place for women to explore their Judaism. In St. Paul, Minnesota, women from Jerusalem came to St. Paul, Minnesota to study Judaism. It was just amazing. And it's gone on. It continues. It just gets better and better. So I would estimate conservatively that since 1970, we've had about 30,000 women. It's not a full-time school. It's whatever time you have, whatever vacation time you can spare, you come. Even a weekend can change your life because it's such fundamental stuff that we study. That was absolutely fantastic. And from that came a series of tapes. When that was popular, that turned into books and now podcasts. So thank you.
Touché, Rabbi. I guess this connects nicely to my next question. You mentioned that you did tapes and books and then speaking engagements, and you are known to have a ton of people attend your speaking engagements, so much so that they always sell out and then they have to squish people in the back who are willing to stand. What do you find, having connected and met so many Jewish people, what do you think is inherent to Jewish people? What is the Jewish nature?
Well, the negative side, the bad news, is that 2,000 years of persecution, give or take a few good weekends in between, but basically 2,000 years of persecution, has really robbed us of our confidence, our self-image. We've become apologetic for our very existence. We become incapable of winning. We don't know how to handle winning. We know how to be good losers. So we need to cure from 2,000 years of damage. And the cure is to regain our confidence, to regain our pride, our dignity, not just in our talents, in our smarts. How many Jews won Nobel Prizes? Oh, that's very nice. What does it have to do with being Jewish? Yeah, it's nice to be smart, but what about being Jewish? So we're very proud of Einstein, Bob Dylan, Barbra Streisand, Woody Allen. We're very proud of their talents, but we need to be proud of their Jewishness, of our Jewishness. And I think that that's where the hunger is today. Make me proud to be a Jew, because I know I'm Jewish, and I will always be Jewish. And that's the real identity. But I'm not sure what to do with that. So they're really interested in how do you go about being a Jew properly? And that is absolutely fascinating.
When I was doing research for this episode, I was listening to some of the other podcasts that you did, and I see you talk about this in a couple of dimensions, right? I heard you once mention, if you want Mashiach to come, act like Mashiach shouldn't come. And the same is true here, right? If you want to be treated as a strong, capable group of people that can have a right to self-determination and win, start acting like you deserve to win. And so it's an interesting evolution that we're seeing, because we see now, I've interviewed people that work in Jewish nonprofits, and they do survey work to see the sentiment of the larger Jewish population. And they find that Jewish Gen Z, is least interested in being proudly and openly Jewish. They don't understand why Israel should exist. They don't understand the importance of an ethnic Jewish state. So it seems like a troubling time right now. And I know you've spent a lot of time and energy dedicating to work to kind of create a mental framework for people to follow so they can make sense of what's going on. And you have a new book now with Dr. Elad Ben Elul called To Win a War the Jewish Way, a guide for post-war sanity. Can you tell us about this book and what inspired you to write it, aside from the fact that the current events, are quite troubling?
Yeah, why write about war? Well, because we're in one. Many years ago, in 1967, Israel won an incredible victory over 3 enemies, 3 fronts, in 6 days. It was absolutely miraculous. It was like of biblical proportion, maybe even greater. That had a cathartic effect on Jews all over the world. It was like bouncing back from the Holocaust. We can hold our heads high. We're not ashamed anymore. People stopped changing their names to more non-Jewish sounding names. People stopped having nose jobs to look more Swedish or something. We were fine being Jews, but because we were proud of the army, it gave us pride, but not exactly in our Jewishness, almost in our ability to do things despite the fact we're Jewish. But it was the beginning of a cure. So I remember thinking then, this is not what we should be proud of. I know it's helpful, it's good. It was a necessary step in our recovery, but that's not the thing. Look at what's happening today. We're almost embarrassed by the strength of the army, right? The fact that we can beat up other armies, we're not proud of that. We're almost ashamed of it. So what do we need now? Now we need to move on. We're not proud of the fact that we have a great army. We're proud of the fact that we are the children of Israel. We're proud of our tradition. We're proud of our Torah. We're proud of our relationship with God. And we're proud to be the chosen nation. And it is not arrogance, and it's not chauvinism. It's not even religion. If God chooses you, what are you supposed to do? Refuse? It's almost like we are the chosen people means you have no choice. You were chosen. Nobody asked. God went ahead and chose us. So what are we going to do? We have only one option. Live up to it. Act like you're chosen. Then everybody feels good. Everything makes sense. The world knows we're chosen, have never treated us like we're chosen, now wonders why we're so damaged. Hey, you're the chosen people. Why aren't you proud? Oh, you killed our pride, but we're going to get it back. So that's what's happening today. That's what people come to hear. More non-Jews than Jews. Non-Jews want to know what it means to be chosen. And they're thrilled when they hear it. because it all makes sense. The world seems right when the chosen people act chosen, and God's plan is developing and completing, and when things make sense, the world settles down into peace. War shows that we don't know what we're doing, life isn't making sense, so we got to create some disturbance to stay alive. Otherwise, we don't know what we're doing here. So if we want real peace in the world, we first have to have peace of mind. And peace of mind can be achieved only if you know why you're alive, why you even have a mind. So the wisdom, the knowledge of our sages, of our collective wisdom, it's absolutely magnificent. And the opportunity to share it with others through the internet, which is an incredible blessing, it's just too exciting.
And can you give us a sneak peek of what your book will cover? Will it address how you think we can get out of this war and come out in the best way for the state of Israel?
It's a tiny little book because, what is there to say? War is hell. Let's get out. What else are you going to? You don't need 300 pages. So here's a little taste of what's in there. We could very easily feel guilty. Did we kill civilians? Maybe even babies? Yeah. Is our reaction disproportional? Maybe. Is this going on way too long? Maybe. What's the truth? We're being accused of all of these things. We try to argue it, but we're kind of left with a feeling of guilt. So let's clarify this for ourselves and for the rest of the world. What does it mean? Don't kill civilians. Sounds like a nice idea. What in the world does it mean? Has there ever been a war where civilians were not killed? Does a war end if civilians are not killed? What is the truth? Is it forbidden to kill civilians? Not according to the Geneva Convention. Is it immoral to kill civilians? Yes or no? Well, who's supposed to know? The leaders of Europe, after they finished with the Holocaust? They're the authors of morality? What is the concept of civilians? In principle, if someone is not a threat to you, you have no reason to kill him. If there's no reason to kill, then you're not allowed. It's murder. How do you know who is a threat to you and who isn't? The insanity of the convention, the Geneva Convention. You go to war. Let's say an Israeli enters a city like Jenin. They have to be careful not to kill civilians. Fine. Great idea. Who's a civilian? How is the soldier supposed to know who a civilian is? Anyone without a uniform? That's senseless. The principle is correctly understood. If the civilian identifies himself as a civilian, you shouldn't kill him. But if he hasn't identified himself as a civilian, then you can't take the chance of losing your life or your fellow soldiers' lives guessing at who is civilian. So how do we know someone is a civilian? If he hands you the gun and says, I surrender, he is no longer a threat. If he doesn't do that, I'm supposed to determine whether he's a threat or not. That's so childish. That's so immature. That's so inane. You can't do that. It's suicide. So, is it wrong to kill a civilian? Absolutely. Whose responsibility is it to identify the civilian? Not mine. The civilian has to identify himself. Let's take that a step further. What about a baby? Someone, an adult, a parent, somebody has to identify the child as a non-combatant. Otherwise, that child may just be a tool of war used to protect the soldiers hiding behind. So if you're using a child as a human shield, that child is not a non-combatant. He's a tool of war. So if the child is not being used as a shield, somebody should identify that. Again, it can't be the soldier's job to determine who is or isn't a threat, because he was risking his life doing that. So it doesn't make sense to make a generalized principle. We never shoot a baby. We never shoot an underage. We never shoot in a place of worship. We never shoot on Sundays or in Ramadan or in a hospital or in a cemetery. It's not moral. So morality says the civilian who identifies himself should not be killed. That makes sense. Another example is proportionality. It is such a childish concept. Proportional means I only killed one, then you get to kill one. If I kill two, then you get to kill two. It's horrific. By the way, the only way to win a war is to do more than the enemy did. Otherwise, you'll never end the war. What is proportionality? According to Judaism, proportionality means you kill only the amount of people necessary to achieve peace. Once you achieve peace, you're not allowed to kill another person, not one more. But the disproportionate is relative to the peace, not to the other numbers on the other side. That's morality, because if I kill 10 people, only 10, and then I stop because enough. That didn't bring peace, did it? It's just a ceasefire. Then those 10 people died for absolutely nothing. I just wasted 10 people. That is not moral. So if you kill even one person and it doesn't bring peace, you cannot justify that killing. On the other hand, once you have killed sufficient numbers of people so that the enemy lays down their weapons and quits, and you have peace, then you can't kill a single person more. That's proportionate. To say we've killed 20,000 Hamas, that's enough. It's a lot. Enough for what? For your comfort zone? You're comfortable with 20,000, but not with 30,000? That's how you measure? That's so ridiculous and immoral. So you say, well, once we've killed 20,000, we're going to stop because it's enough. Enough for what? If you stop and you haven't achieved peace, then 20,000 people were killed for nothing. So what is a moral way to wage war? Discourage the enemy thoroughly and quickly so that there will not be another war for at least 40 years. That's moral. Letting it drag on, kill a few people today, a few more people tomorrow, and it goes for a year, for 2 years, 10 years, you're destroying the next generation. Children are growing up knowing only war. That is not moral. So whatever you're going to do it fast. Do it decisively. Get to peace quickly by doing whatever it takes to discourage the enemy from trying again. We've never done that in the Middle East. We always stop before there's peace. It's a horrible thought. But on both sides of the issue, so many people have died and we still don't have peace. That's horrible. Horrible. So that's the right way to fight a war, as decisively and as quickly as possible. But we don't have the stomach for it. We get queasy after a few battles, and we want to quit. We want to stop. We want to call it off. That's not moral. It's weak, which only encourages another attack in 5-10 years. Regroup, get some new soldiers, a few more modern guns and bombs, and we're back to war again, as if it never really stopped. So soldiers have to be treated like heroes, or you're destroying them. You don't send a soldier to war and then treat them like criminals. That also is highly immoral. So here's the real secret. When two Arab countries go to war, does anybody count the number of civilians killed? No. Does either side use civilians as human shields? No, because they know it won't make a difference. The only time it happens is in a war with Israel. We complain. Oh, they're always using humans for shields, because you keep telling them that it's worthwhile. You keep promising them that you will not shoot civilians. Well, then what do you expect them to do? Then they're going to use civilians. If you tell them I will never shoot a baby, what are you suggesting? That they put their rockets under the nurseries. You said you'd never attack a hospital. Well, guess where the bombs are? So in some way, we're actually causing them to use human shields and hospitals and ambulances and schools.
I think it's more we're disclosing our strategies, right? We're telling them where our boundaries are so that they can exploit the boundary.
And is that moral, or is that endangering every civilian?
That is, in this scenario, endangering civilians, which is why we get into these ethical dilemmas. And it's interesting that you mentioned that. I think this nicely ties into the fabric of humanity, because what you're talking about is this duel between greatest good for the greatest number and what is ethical and moral long term. And from an old school ethics standpoint, utilitarianism and Kantianism are often at odds. And utilitarianism is associated often by progressive movements, by socialist movements, right? Whereas Kantianism, or a more like what's just and what's fair approach, is correlated to a more observant religious-based movements. Religious organizations take on a more justice and fairness Kantianism approach. And now, more than ever, we're seeing those two schools of thought really at odds.
And sadly, religion isn't helping either. Religion has lost its moral compass too. So what's left? What's left when religion is actually causing wars and graduate students and their professors are actually applauding war? What happened to our sources of morality? It's not coming from religion, and it's not coming from college, from education. The educated are worse than the non-educated. The president of the university is worse than the professor, and the professor is worse than the students. And religion, it gives murder the most legitimate excuse. I'm doing it in the name of God. No wonder the world is so confused. It's so sad. It's so sad. It started with what seemed like benign, liberal ideas. No one has an absolute truth. Nobody has a copyright on truth. Everyone has their own truth. That was back in the 50s. Didn't that sound good? So truth became circumstantial. Depends where, depends when. So now when you ask the president of a university, is the massacre that happened on October 7th unacceptable? Depends on the context. What the heck does that mean? We philosophized ourselves right into evil. There is no absolute truth. That doesn't sound dangerous, but it is. This is what it's led to. It's not that we're evil. It's that we're insane. There's a difference. It's not like, oh, we're going back to the 30s. We're going back to the Nazis. No. We just have lost our heads. The answer is not more battles or more war. The answer is moral clarity. It's not easy because everyone can claim to have moral clarity even as they practice evil. But there is moral clarity. And if we have it, we must share it. That's what we're doing as we speak.
I want to switch gears a little bit now and ask you about being YouTube's most popular rabbi, which is quite the title. It's a two-pronged question for you here. The first part is practically, what does that even mean? And the second part is, what do you think your favorite part of your job is? There are parts of your role where you engage with a lot of people at once, doing speaking engagements, smaller one-on-one engagements like this, and then ones where you just engage with a camera and there's no audience at all. What do you think your favorite part of all of these different projects is?
The one-on-one, because what you learn one-on-one, you can then share with large groups. What you learn from large groups, you cannot share because you don't know if it's true. The mob mentality means that when people get together, they stop thinking for themselves and they kind of coalesce into some cultish way of thinking, which is not true. It's not correct. It's not real. So better to find the truth in the individual and then apply it to the public rather than the other way around. So being the most subscribed rabbi, I don't know if I'm the most popular, but I have more subscriptions than any other rabbi. Why that is? Because we haven't done anything to enhance the message. There are no gimmicks, there are no tricks, there's no fancy camera work, there's no slick advertisement. It's totally unnecessary. If you don't believe in what you're saying, then you're part of the problem. You become Hollywood. Hollywood means sanctifying falsehood. So no shtick, no gimmicks, nothing. Artless. If you know something to be true, just say it. No background music, no candlelight. If it makes sense to you, if this appeals to you, fine. If not, it's what people want. Serious people, not the ones who are just surfing the internet. And that's why I may not have the most views, but I have the most subscribers, because those who appreciate become long-term followers. They subscribe, which basically means they agree, because it's not entertainment. It's true or not true. Truth is always simple. If it starts to sound complicated or complex, you're drifting. And if you can't answer the ultimate question within 2.5 minutes, then you don't have an answer.
My boss always tells me that at work. If you can't put it in one page, you haven't thought about it hard enough.
That's so true. So women who would come to our program for a weekend, if they don't come away changed, then you've cheated them. If what you're offering is really true, then an hour should be life-changing. And if not, then a month isn't going to do it either.
So next question for you. You've been described as having a remarkable ability to intuit things and bring a healing or a positive change onto others. Can you talk more about that? Because you mentioned the work that is most fulfilling to you is the one where you do things one-on-one.
Intuitive? I'm not sure what that means. I do know that if you listen, the person will tell you what they need to hear. They tell you. All you have to do is say, right, that's there it is. There it is. You just hit it on the head. People will, if you give them a chance, and if you're listening, people will tell you what they need to hear. So I don't know if it's intuitive or just the art of listening, but if you let people express themselves, they will give you the answer they want to hear from you. It works every time.
I had a friend who had some ear pain. She went to your school in Minneapolis. And she came to you and she said, my ears hurt, Rabbi. They hurt so bad. And you wrote something on a piece of paper and you said, don't look at it. Just keep it in your pocket. Just keep it around with you. And then later, a couple of months, a month maybe went by and she was like, I'm going to open the paper, whatever. And so she opened the paper and it said the name of some herb that would treat the ear pain. And that was really interesting. So that's what I was trying to get at with the question, because there is healing from an emotional standpoint when you listen to others. But I know that even physical healing, people will come to you and ask for help with something physical that they have. And that's unique. I don't hear about rabbis doing that very often.
Well, we can't really separate the emotional from the physical, or the mental from the emotional, or the spiritual. So to be holistic, you have to treat the body, the heart, the mind, and the soul. So what's going on in the physical kind of indicates what's going on in the emotional, which is an expression of what's going on in the mental, which could be a result of a false belief, which is spiritual. So, yeah, it all works together. But writing down the name of an herb, because the herb has a natural resonance, a vibration, you can produce that vibration simply by writing down the name of the herb. The name carries the vibration. That's kind of biblical because God said, let there be light, and there was light. What does that mean? It means the word light creates the vibration of light. In the English language, the word doesn't create, but it resonates.
That's very mystical. Because
Yeah.
I know that in the Hebrew language, the words you say are really important. And that's why you don't ever want to say things like, I'm going to kill myself, or like, this makes me so sick, and those kinds of things.
Or my shoes are killing me.
Yeah. Makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing that. That kind of brings me to my next question of who is your rabbi? And where do you get inspiration to continue to share different messages with people, whatever's on your mind?
I have been very fortunate, and I've had some really incredible mentors. I'm not even going to talk about the Rebbe himself that inspired everybody I know, but some of those people that Rebbe inspired became the teachers and the mentors of the younger students, and they were incredible themselves. So I've had some very, very good teachers. One of them passed away just a year ago. So I'm very grateful for that.
And here's a question I've been wanting to ask you. I don't know if anyone has asked you this before. I tried to dig it up, but I couldn't find anything. What would you tell your younger self?
So I would say, why aren't you better at the things you're good at? Why are you worrying about the things you're not good at? You don't need to be everything to everyone. But the things you're good at, why aren't you better? You're good at it. It's good. Shouldn't you be doing it maximally instead of half-heartedly or partially? So find what you're really good at, find what is the best thing, and do it completely. Go all the way. But we get distracted. Yeah, well, what about the other thing? What about all those things I can't do well? Yeah, well, what about them? Maybe I should try. Maybe I should become good at other things. Maybe, but it may also be a waste of time. You may become good at the other thing as well. Then what are you going to do? Do each of them halfway? Pick the one thing you're really good at and be really busy with it all the way. Exhaust yourself doing what you're good at. Go to sleep totally tired and exhausted. That's a good day.
I got gifted for the first time a book of Tehillim. I got gifted one by a Chabad in my area. And there was a psalm in there that was like, I'm going to bed, I'm peaceful and unafraid, and I can fall asleep immediately because I'm not afraid of anything, or because I know that I've maximized my day. And that's such a great feeling of just going to bed completely ready to sleep because you really have nothing else that you needed to do that day.
Fewer regrets.
Yeah.
I should have, I could have, why didn't I?
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I've got just a couple more questions for you. On that note, I want to ask you, what do you wish to tell young Jewish secular people today? Pretend you're speaking to me, especially right now. Times are very tough and troubling for Jewish people. And it can even be a little Dvar Torah if you'd like.
Now, first I would say there's no such thing as a secular person. If you're alive, then you are godly because God gives you his energy to live on. Where else does life come from? There's something sacred in everybody. And it's really good to know where your sacredness or sanctity lies. What is sacred about you? What is life? What is your purpose and mission? The biggest question people asking today is, why am I here? Even children are asking. And it's a very good question. Yeah, why were you born? It's like the ultimate mother of all questions. Why was I born? Now, if I'm asking that question, and everybody is, that means that I don't need to be born. Because if I needed to, I wouldn't be asking why. I don't need to, and yet here I am. Why? The answer to that question is the answer to everything. Why am I here? What need produced me? And it's not my mother and father because they're asking the same question. They didn't ask to be born either, nor did my grandparents. So who did? Adam and Eve? Blame it all on them? I am needed even though I don't need. So I don't need to be born. I don't need this at all. I don't need life. And that's what's wrong, partially. That's what's wrong with religion. Religion tells you how to get to heaven. I don't need to go to heaven. I don't need anything. I didn't ask for this. Sure, you want to go to heaven. This is how you get there. Yeah, I don't mind going to heaven, but I don't understand why. Why am I here to get to heaven? It doesn't make any sense. It's important because if I can't answer the question of why I'm here, I quit on life. It's not an idle question. It's not an academic question. Either my life has purpose or I don't want it. The thought of living for nothing is worse than nothing. It's torture. This woman told me very seriously, I'm going to kill myself today. I got it all worked out. I've got it all planned out. I'm going to kill myself today. I said, why? She says, because it's all meaningless. I said, well, if it's meaningless, why do you have to kill yourself? Just sit quietly, grow old, and die. What's the rush? If it's meaningless, it's torture because there's something built into the human psyche. Life must have a purpose. If I feel like there is no purpose, I don't want it. Well, not when I'm having fun, then I'm okay with it. But as soon as the fun stops, I don't need this. So we really need to know what our purpose is. It's not spiritual, it's not religious, it's not otherworldly. It either makes my life or breaks my life. It's visceral. We need to know what we are needed for. If you can help people get there, you are saving lives. That's what I would like everybody to hear.
That was really powerful. I deeply believe in finding a purpose as well. And I think that's something beautiful and almost unique to Judaism, because a lot of other religions don't have that focus on empowering people to find their inner purpose. You can get very lost that way.
Yeah, no religion tells you why you're here in the first place. It only tells you how to get out of the problems of being here. So then why am I here in the first place? That's the way it is.
And as we near the end here, I just have 2 short questions for you. The first one is, what's the best way to keep up with you on social media and learn about your work? Please share any upcoming projects that you're excited about.
Well, I have a book called Doesn't Anyone Blush Anymore?
I read that book. It was mailed to me a few months ago by my local Chabad, and I read it.
That came out in the 90s, early 90s. It's about relationships. And the publisher asks you to submit titles that you would suggest for your book. And then they get the last final word on that. So I asked them to call it Shut Up, I Love You. They said, no, shut up is too rough. This is 1990. Shut up was too harsh. We've come a long way since then. So they chose Doesn't Anyone Blush Anymore? And it worked. It was a good choice. It's about relationships, and it's about the sensitivity towards the other that we seem to have lost. We don't blush. We're not sensitive. And if you're not sensitive, you're probably not good at being intimate. But this was the 90s, and you had to be really careful what you say. More recently, I put out a book called The Joys of Intimacy. Much more detailed, much more specific, because we seem to have lost all intimacy. Like nothing is intimate. A hug is not intimate. A kiss is not intimate. Holding hands is not intimate. Being alone in the room is not intimate. Nothing's intimate anymore. And people feel that emptiness, that void, even happily married couples. But they don't feel intimately connected because it's all fun and games. And then more recently, I wrote a book called Creating a Life That Matters, dealing with all the heavy subjects: marriage, relationships, God, heaven, hell, religion, children, death, all the big questions. So it's kind of a little encyclopedia on life. Most recently, we came out with this book, To Win a War the Jewish Way. So if you have some spare time and you like to read, those would be good books. And the way to get that is to go online. It's goodtoknow.org. It's good to know. So now you know. The site is itsgoodtoknow.org, where all my lectures are, all my books, all my future appearances. It's all there.
Thanks so much for sharing anything you're looking forward to with your upcoming projects and your books. As I mentioned, I read some of them. They're fantastic. I highly recommend. And my last question for you, which I ask every guest, is who would you like to nominate for the podcast? For context, this can be either a person that you think would like to come on as a guest, or it can be a historical figure that's no longer with us. And I will do research on them and do an expose episode sharing about their meaningful work and their life with all of the listeners.
Boy, we have a very big selection. Hard to pick one over the other. But most fascinating, Eve.
Like the biblical character? Great. I love that nomination.
The grandmother of all human beings. I would love to hear from her. What was she thinking?
Fantastic nomination, Rabbi. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been such a pleasure to have you on, and I can't wait to share this episode with everyone.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll make the world a little better.
Take care, Rabbi.
Only good news.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please go ahead and rate us 5 stars. Be the first to hear our episodes by subscribing to People You Want to Know wherever you get your podcasts. And for exclusive content, follow us on Instagram at People You Want to Know.